Whether you're new to pool and practicing the basics, or a more experienced player performing drills to improve your shot making and positional play, the Drill Partner is perfect for you.
What is up, Mr.
We're
Pinozo?
back at it.
Back in action. Yeah, how are you, man?
Good.
You just dropped a little bomb right before we went live. Care to share?
About Darren?
Yeah, about Darren. Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, I was just messaging with Darren Appleton. We were talking about Mosconi Cup, and I think he's going to be there for the first couple of days. But he said,
Oh, nice.
if you guys want someone to join on for a daily recap or a daily preview, whatever works best time wise here, he's game. So I'm good. I'm good there. That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, as long as they don't sick their fangs into him, I'm good with it. No, I'm just kidding. Darren's always welcome to come on the show, and I'd love to get his insight on how the day goes. Yeah, see how bloody it gets.
Yeah, it'd be fine. I mean, given the time change, like late morning, we could always do a cap of the day before and then a preview of what's coming up that day ahead of all the matches. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I want to do a bunch of stuff ahead of the Mosconi Cup and really try to just do ahead of it and then also during it, of course, and getting someone with the class of Darren and plus I just love his unfiltered perspective. You know what I mean? So I always got a ton of respect for it. Plus, he just
I told him not to go too tilt because I'm going to be campaigning for him to be a Team USA captain when they get back to captains.
Team USA captain.
100%.
Yeah. Do you think where's his loyalty at? Do you think he can be Team USA captain?
He would do that. He would do that in a minute.
Wow. Okay. Well, you know what? The boys ought to get together and chip in to go and hire themselves an actual captain. But we'll get to that. Hey, we see all you guys in the chat. Bridge Doorman, MV, of course, Milo Bell, Emerson. MV, we're not going to the Mosconi Cup, although Mike will have eyes and ears on the ground, from what I understand, in Keith Paradise. No.
Yeah, so we'll have some daily updates from him too, a little behind the scenes stuff. See what he drum up any dirt.
Well, there'll be plenty of that, and there's been plenty of it leading up to it as well. I kind of wanted to. So here's a couple things that I wanted to do. Like I mentioned about doing player stuff, right? Like just kind of going over the years that the players have had individually, right? Because there's a lot of guys, which we'll get to in a minute, that get a little big chested without much of a resume in the year. You know what I mean? So I want to look at them individually, and then talk about their team dynamic, of course. And then what I wanted to do, Mike, is that if we can take the framework of what the Reyes Cup rules are, right? The parameters. Yeah. And then we can do one of us is going to have to be the Team USA captain. One of them's got to be the Team Europe captain. And then we got to set our lineups. And then I want to dive into it. You know what I mean? Why we're going this route, all that stuff. So,
yeah, I mean, we should check and see. I'm sure they don't have it out yet, but see if they're going to use the exact same format as Reyes Cup. I would think so. I thought it was a really good format. I mean, it was clean. You couldn't double up. You could double up on players. Play singles. Then a couple of times you could play twice in the same day, but you couldn't keep throwing the same guy out there over and over and over. Everybody had to play singles. One second person played. All those type of things. I like that approach to it. I'm sure they'll stick with the teams matches the first three, so yeah, I think it'll be pretty similar.
Yeah, I think so, and I hope so anyway, because I enjoyed that as well. And it gives a chance for, depending on the strategy, the likes of AJ getting an MVP, right, where they go with their weakest player first, and so that debate as to and it's going to be an interesting discussion whether you're on the European side or on the American side, depending on how heavy or how rookie weighted you want to go, depending on what team you're on. So I want to dive into that, and then on top of going back to the years that the players have had, I want to get we're going to bring back Uncle Mike's list of majors. So, and that's gonna be the reference point for how we do it. So we're gonna go with the Hall of Famer himself. We're not gonna go Philippine Open. I'm guessing we probably won't go. What else is gonna be?
Would you think the Perry Open was a bigger event than the Philippines Open?
Yeah, hell yeah, I do. Yeah,
yeah.
So,
So, yeah.
no matter how you slice it, I think from a depth of field, from a prize money standpoint.
So it's, I don't know if I talk about even in terms of major. I'd say here are the top 10 tournaments of the year.
Yeah, there you go.
Open,
but you'll set.
Here's the top 10 Open 9-ball tournaments of the year.
Well, it don't necessarily got to be 9-ball. I mean, sure, 9-ball, but
if we're talking about Mosconi Cup and their resumes going into it, I think that's more important than Alvin winning World 8-ball.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. I can buy into that. Shorty says hello. And this way, like, I do enough pissing people off as it is. So, like, by it being Uncle Mike's, list of majors, I'm free and clear. So that's just the way that I move, buddy. So, no, yeah, it's gonna be good. Even though like the stuff online has been a little interesting and very different compared to years before. It's always going to be the premier event, at least for like looking into the events of the year. Mike Nathaniel is in the chat and says Atencio for next year, and I guess that's as good as a transition as any to go ahead and dive on into it. There was
we're going to go into that. Okay.
Yeah, that's I want to go into the trash talking, but listen, there has been no shortage of trolling the Americans online, from seeing the Coe brothers in USA jackets to the amount of Filipinos in every forum just talking about how everyone's playing for second place and blah, blah, blah. Everybody knows that Team USA is the same team as last year. Hopes are not very high, and from looking at social media posts through Matchroom, it doesn't look like ticket sales are that high as well. So, but with that, some news after the weekend. Atencio repping the red, white, and blue on digital pool, which I don't really take that into consideration, because you can just click a button and change someone's flag. I can represent Zimbabwe on digital pool, but Matchroom did make note of that in their social post. They are aware of how depleted the Americans are, how weak they are. Give me your thoughts on Atencio, and then of course Toasty as well, Thorsten Holman repping the red, white, and blue also.
Yeah, well, it's kind of two different scenarios, really. I mean, Torsten, he's lived here for more than half his life and became an American citizen. So he's got every right in the world to wave that flag, and I hope he does, because you would hope that he's proud to be here as a citizen. So, he's getting up there in his years, and he still plays great, but. As I said on one post, that listen, he didn't go through all this just because it gives him a better chance to make Mosconi Cup for Team USA. So, does that put him in the equation? Sure. Does anybody, then everybody's got to say, well, then Jason should be Team USA, and everybody's got to go tilt in that direction of just pick anybody who lives in the USA for more than 6 months and call him, an American citizen. I draw the line with that stuff too. I mean, we know that the whole Federer situation was a little bit, out there. He had been here for about 2 years and and really couldn't go back to Russia, and so that was a little bit of a forced situation. But some Torsten, if he wants to go take a run at all the Matchroom tournaments next year and see if he can represent Team USA and whatever event that player is needed, good for him. Have at it. I don't think he gets. He's proud of his affiliation with the German Federation all these years, I'm sure, but he's not on their payroll anymore. He's not, a favored son in the Dutch. The Deutsche Billiard Union. So this it's fine that he's playing here. Jesus, it's to me, a couple years away
Well,
from
hold on.
taking that
Let me
kind of step.
let me put you on pause there on Jesus, and let's just talk about Thorson for just a moment, Mike, because like I
Yeah.
think it's while I think I agree with you in terms of like Mosconi Cup not being his motivation there, I think a byproduct of that will be him being in contention, and we'll put some heat on guys who are real comfortable
Yeah.
depending on whose buddy is captain and depending on who's going to be claiming an automatic spot, and especially depending on who is like how bad it gets this year, if it does get bad at
Yeah.
all in terms of the American competitive landscape. But listen, even if you look at the WPA aspect of it, there's always a shortage of, no disrespect to, Hunter Lombardos of the world, but there's always a shortage of top American players going and representing in terms of the BCA side of things, and so he'll have a big shot at getting at being one of those automatics from that standpoint. So, and just given how deep the Germans are, and every time I look, online, it's like there's a new young German player who's just tearing through a tournament. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
it's unbelievable. So I think from a number of different aspects, it makes a lot of sense. Of course, given the fact that he lives here and he's had citizenship now for what, a year now, Mike, almost, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And it's not like the Fraser dub citizenship, right? Like this is formal, acknowledged U.S. citizenship.
Yeah. He's same with Allison Fisher.
Yeah.
Went through the same process. She lives here. She's got her roots here now, and she wanted to become a U.S. citizen. She didn't need to. Thorson didn't need to. So good for them for doing that. Does that put Thorson in the picture if he travels next year and goes to all these events? Yeah, he's got enough game to put some heat on whoever's going for that number 3 spot. I don't think he's a threat to a Shane or a Federer or top 2, but does he have a shot at number 3? Sure, of course. And would his play, make you give him some consideration? Yeah, for sure. But it's not like
you may not even get that chance if he gets the 3 spot. Like in other words,
right. Oh, yeah, he definitely
consideration may just be not. Yeah.
Yeah, he could earn the 3rd spot. And if he does, God bless him. I mean, he's got to be pushing, 50 almost at this point. If not, if maybe he is already 50. But anyways.
You got to put all his business out there like that, Mike. You ain't got to go and say the dude's age.
Well, look him up, man.
Yeah. Google me, right?
No, he's still got a great game, obviously. He did well in the recent event that Jesus won. And that's what started this whole, this whole thing. So he's 46. So
you put him plus 10. Golly, Mikey.
I said pushing 50. 46 could be considered pushing 50. All right.
Okay. All right.
So, but yeah, so it's not the same as like all of a sudden dropping Federer into the equation, who's a 26-year-old at the top of his game, or a Jesus or something like that. If Thorsten earns it, God bless him. Put him on that team and let's see what he does. He missed out on a lot of, matchroom events, Mosconi Cups that he probably should have been on over his career. So I'm sure he'd love the opportunity to from that standpoint to play for US and get a little bit of that back. I think it's an interesting thing and something that legitimately, like I said, is a US citizen. You got to, if he wants to throw his name in the hat, you can't tell him no because you weren't born here. And it's so
he picked up. Did he pick up 10 grand already? Was that what he got paid out there in Florida?
Maybe Florida and whatever else was. Did he play in something before Florida that was
Well,
ranking event. What did he get in the Philippines Open?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you, when it comes to the Philippines. But what the
I
Philippines
think
was
he
the
made a
cutoff.
couple rounds. I think he got a couple rounds into the Philippines Open. But yeah, I mean, he can certainly. He's got the game to. I mean, in the U.S., if you hit 20,000, you're on.
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
so it's not, the bar's not set real
Kind of,
high in
kind of
terms of
sad,
points, right?
whenever you put it
Yeah.
like that, Mike. It's a little sad, but
So
you're right, uh, and I like it because it'll make guys who have been coasting have to actually earn their way, and have to go and travel, have to go and have performance, have to go and have signature wins along with that. Plus, if there is a change in captaincy, then it's like they're all going to be looked at with a different lens. Now,
yeah,
look, he's got a great cushion. He takes it as being a professional, and I know he doesn't like travel the full matchroom schedule, but he does play consistently. You know what
nobody
I mean?
did
And
last
well, that's a whole other question, Mike, that I wanted to ask you about because listen, now there's this WNT TV, right? Which every tournament that's got their umbrella, I think those tournaments were sold on the idea that you're going to have the best players in the world there, right? And then Matchroom goes and benefits by putting it behind their paywall, right, to showcase like the TV table on there. But like, is it worth it for these tournaments to still have that WNT logo on there? And what's the benefit at this point if top players
year.
aren't showing up as
What's
frequently?
the drawback to them doing it? They don't pay any extra to Matchroom for being a WNT regional tournament or a ranking point tournament. They just basically get a good housekeeping stamp, and then they go on their way. So um, the WNT, I'm sure, helps them. I don't think it was ever a promise they're going to get all the best players in the world, but it's something extra leverage for them to get some players that they might not have all gotten on their own. So I don't think there's any drawback to tournaments still being WNT tournaments. So they're going to have a 9-ball tournament, and they're smart enough to run it at a time where there's, at the front end or back end of other events in whatever country or area of the country that they might be in. So, from a promoter standpoint, yeah, I think those events are smart, and they're not all going to get, 15 out of the top 20 players. They know that going in. They'll get some extra
Yep.
action, and
But
it
this year in particular it's been slim pickings for a lot of these tournaments, especially compared to the way the prior year was.
Yeah, it was. Well, there's just so many more events, so guys are picking and choosing a little bit more how much they're going to go. I don't think the tournament themselves were any drawback. It's just how much you're going to put into these events. There's so many of them in the U.S. that for players in the U.S., like a Torsten, like a Lucas, that a lot of good opportunities to get those extra points that might be enough to get you to that next ranking spot.
Well, this is what I love is that these two guys in particular that we're talking about, we're going to get to Jesus here in just a moment, but like with them being thrown into that American mix, plus the fact that there weren't a ton of Americans there at that tournament out there in Florida, I just love it because listen, they need some competition, they need some heat, they need to have guys who are going to be closing in on them, or with the ability to go and lap them, and especially if, like I mentioned before, if this year is like it was last year in terms of how uncompetitive it was and how unentertaining it was, then it's like something's gonna have to give there, and they're gonna have to completely shake it up. Now, I think either way, I'm with you in that Shane and Federer are gonna be a lock no matter what, and I fully expect them to be number one, number two on rankings, but they're full time touring pros,
Right.
like in general. You know what I mean? So. Chances are, from a merit standpoint, they're going to get there. Plus the fact that they're, you know, all the hopes and dreams of American fans are on their shoulders each and every December. So, um, but I listen. I love that being tossed in there. I want to see how guys are going to be traveling. And I want to see like how comfortable guys really were. Like, in other words, if guys go and take a step back who are on the team this year, then that just really shows how comfortable they were, you know? And if they go out there and try to actually get the points and go out there and compete, then it shows how hungry they are, And I'm not sure which side you're going to go and see depending on the player. But I'm sure it'll be telling from a number of different aspects. On the other end, Mike, Atencio wins a tournament. and he was repping the red, white, and blue. Picks up $13,000 in the process, and Matchroom made note of it in their social media posts that acknowledging which flag that he was representing on there. Mike,
Yeah,
what's your take
that's
on that?
that's bait. It's clickbait. Um, Listen, I love he did his 10th year. I love that he's back in playing pool full time now. It was a couple years that he was away. I don't. I think it's forcing things to make it seem like he's an option for Team USA already. He's lived here, a few years, 4 years at least, I would think. Um, and realistically, this is where he wants to live. He's not just like, you know, even like a Torsten. He still had his family in Germany, his home in Germany, whatever. You thought that Jesus, he and his family left Venezuela and they came here. This is it. They're not going back. It's not, it's not visitor stuff. This is his new place, and he's going to be here forever. So, I'm excited for him. I'm excited for his opportunities, but I wouldn't try to force him into this. All of a sudden, he's an American player thing too soon. And for two, he can't leave the country. He's not, he's still got some work to do on visa, green cards, things like that. He's kind of at Sura where he's not traveling from tournaments anywhere outside of, Atlantic City, Florida. So the chances of him earning enough points to be on next year's team is kind of a stretch, unless he goes out and wins the U.S. Open and the Florida Open next year, and although realistically he could play in those two tournaments and get enough points to be on Team USA. But I think to me that one would be a little bit of a stretch. I'd like to see him playing full time for a couple of years. I'd like to see him get his green card, get out there, start playing the international tournaments, and then we can talk about, is he a full-fledged U.S. representative? That's just my opinion.
I think that if the Mosconi Cup was in Florida this year, Jesus would have been on the team. And I think his lack of travel and Matchroom being aware of his lack of travel options is the reason why that he's not on the Mosconi Cup as of this year. That's the reason why, in my opinion anyway, that he was not on the table. I fully expect him to be an option for next year. I think that they will be in, whether it's not going to be like Thorsten status, right, in terms of him having citizenship, but I think like through the Fraser Federation, she'll give that stamp of approval to put him on the fast track to get on that team no matter what, especially given how it was in Florida, how much that they showed out for him in Florida as well. I think that, and if, the writing to me just seems on the wall. And while I do agree with you that Matchroom is real thirsty in terms of clickbait, they're also very aware of the fact that, like, and if you just go and compare some of their social media numbers, Mosconi Cup's just not getting a whole lot of traction, especially compared to the way that it was. Excuse me?
Speaking of clickbait.
Yeah. Come again, Mr. Hall of Famer. Listen,
why do you think that engagement and interest is down?
I think that the Reyes Cup backfired. I think that's a part of it, and the Reyes Cup watered down what was the most intense show of the year. And listen, while I was one campaigning for the Reyes Cup for a long time, I did not expect to see this happen as a result, but I also feel like, and we mentioned this before on many shows that we've done, that because of the way that Emily and Team Matchroom have cherry picked these players and have put others, like, to me, the way that some of these teams are put together and the way that, like, you've kind of forced in these trash talking and all these things, it just feels like I'd almost like it equated to, imagine if the NFL just put the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC Championship every year, where because you get one of the biggest fan bases, they're automatically going to be up there, even though they don't perform, right? They'll get you, talks on panel shows and all these things, but like they're not they're not doing anything. And after a while, if it starts getting lopsided, and it hasn't started getting lopsided, it's been lopsided for quite some time. And then just given the fact that like some of these some of these fan favorites have now turned a little bit of a heel because of the way the process has gone, I feel like, Mike, and you're seeing that from social media banter.
Yeah.
Now, whether it's fair or whatever, like the tide has certainly shifted in that regard. And like if I turn on Facebook or if I turn on Instagram or whatever, all I'm seeing is tickets are still available. Tickets are still available. It is November 12th, Mike. We're less than a month away. Like that's if that's not punching the emergency button, I don't know what is at this point.
Yeah,
And
no,
so
you got you have Josh Filler, posting the link to the tickets. That's
you know what I mean? Like if that's
our favorite matchroom promoter, Josh Filler, pushing
Yeah.
the ticket sales. So yeah, no, it's I'm still kind of torn over what the main reasons are for that. Are people losing interest because of the one-sidedness, or did the kind of really sporadic lack of really doing that 12-month Mosconi news cycle really hurt them this year? It was kind of secondary. There was so much more put into Reyes Cup, so much more put into all these other events, things like that. But yeah.
Yeah, I think like and the reason why I don't think it's from the competitive standpoint, Mike, is that if there were some fresh faces in the mix, right? Like and I don't care how you go and chop it up. I mean, there's a lot of people tuning in to watch Johnny Archer and Dennis Hatch and Rodney Morris and former Mosconi Cup champions go and compete free on YouTube this week on Ultimate Pool, So like people still want to see guys go and play, right? But I think like the fact that it's the exact same cast of characters last year and how bad it was last year from a sports standpoint, this is where I feel like you've gotten this kind of like bitter reaction from fans. And I think that they did not see it coming, or if they did see it coming, they didn't care, either or. But certainly they went and took if the stands are not going to be as full, then it just shows they took the Mosconi Cup fans for granted in that aspect. Because I would be like, and I'm just speaking for me, so maybe I'm completely off base here in terms of the finger on the pulse, but I would be a lot more excited if there were some new faces on there just because of the uncertainty of it, right? To see who could do well, to see what could happen, to see how they do perform. And I would hold on to that and be looking forward to it, even though like
you're talking strictly as a U.S. fan, and it's in Europe, so we're talking to most of the ticket buyers going to be European fans, and there are new faces on the European team, so there are some new people to watch, some new excitement, some new things like that.
Yeah, but
so
will PS and Moritz put faces in the stands, Mike?
No, but that's what. But not, who's going to put faces in the stand if you change up Team USA?
I think that it would bring it would turn the social media standpoint and the hype around it a lot more different compared to the years before. Whereas now, here we are, I turn on Facebook the other day or 2 days ago, whatever it was, and then I see Jason talking shit to Federer about him having baby powder on his ass while the Europeans give it to him, and it's just and it's funny because this time of year, like I'll get a lot of notifications, like how Facebook will do like your history or whatever,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And it's the same old story, Mike. It's the same old story. We've seen it before. This time of year, it's like a record. Oh, it's right before Thanksgiving. Okay, Jason, go on. You're up, buddy. Go and earn the 40,000 or 80,000 or whatever it is. And
Right.
he'll trash talk them. Right? We'll play some blah blah blah. Even though I'll tell you a little story, Mike. So, and I posted this video the other day on Windows Open, and it was Jason talking about playing Federer again from 3 years ago. Now, the reason why I remembered it is because I had a real bad taste in my mouth, and the reason being is because I remember at that time, I forgot who it was, but somebody had messaged me and said, "Hey, you know what? I'll bet you," and I forgot the amount. It might have been $300 to $500, and they were like, "I'll bet you that Shaw doesn't play Federer within the next 6 months." Now, mind you, this was 3 years ago, And although the calendar has filled up over the last 2 years, 3 years ago it wasn't like this, you know? So I was pumped up. I was like, yeah, let's fucking go. Okay, snap call, right? I'm stealing. They're gonna go and play, right? Because that's what Jason does, right? You know what I mean? Fucking no, it was like crickets afterwards, Mike. They didn't even play. He didn't even play within those 6 months. I had to peel off the money. You know what I mean?
They didn't
And
even,
and
they
the,
didn't even bark. They didn't even bark during those 6 months
no,
because
well, and here's the deal. After that had started, Jason goes on to beat Shane and beat Shane playing 9 ball, 9 on the spot by a convincing amount. Like it was the first time in Shane and Jason's head-to-head matchups that Jason got the better of it. And it was a slaughter. I mean, it was so far out of line. Jason just destroys SVB. Federer was coming off of beating Carlo Beato as well there in Louisville, which is the only place Federer will play. And it was like, so you figure Jason had momentum, right? Had some confidence 3 years
yeah,
ago.
yeah, yeah.
Well, now nobody on earth is going to stake Jason playing that game against Federer. Nobody with any respect for their money is going to go and stake Jason, seeing what Federer has done recently, Mike. You know, and so it's just it's a lot of just disingenuous barking, in my opinion. I think like it's almost like, hey, listen, you especially in Jason, right? Because he gets more favoritism from Matchroom more than anybody on the roster, right? So it's like, hey, you got to go and stir this up a little bit, Connor. You got to go and try to build the fight a little bit. You know what I mean?
So you think he's being prodded? They're being prodded and orchestrated to have this online beef.
Uh, I think that it's no coincidence that this same time of year, almost every year, this same shit happens. Is what I'll say. Now whether or not it's drawn out for him, or he just knows what to do or whatever. Like and I also don't feel
Just
like
follow the script.
fall in line, son. But plus, I mean, listen, it's also no coincidence that you see guys going and pushing ticket sales at the same time. And we saw this pre-Reyes Cup, right, where like everyone is telling you about 50% off tickets and blah blah blah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like. And in the Mosconi Cup, the shit talking part of it's a big thing, right? Like we bought into that every single year. But Mike, these two guys in particular, they were laughing and cutting up, what, 6 weeks ago? Whatever it was, you know?
About this cup, we've talked about, how much does playing together in the Reyes Cup affect, things going forward, like the Mosconi, and we'll see. I mean, I'm hoping that they can throw in some game faces for Mosconi Cup, but we'll see.
I think some of the guys do. Like, I think some of the guys do really play with that pride and that chip on their shoulder, and they bleed the red, white, and blue. That I believe, I don't think it's across the board. I think some of them, like I mentioned before, are collecting paychecks, and other ones are just a part of the ride, or a part of the show.
Yeah.
But it's like it's like, man, you can't even come up with some new material. You know what I mean? Like that's what it felt like when I'm seeing some of. And listen, Mike, you know me. I love good shit talking. I love when guys are going and barking and stirring the nest up and all these things, right? I love it. But like, I've seen Jason back out of playing Justin Bergman. I've seen Jason disappear when it comes to playing Federer, right? I've seen this dog and pony show over and over and over again, especially this time of year, right? It's no coincidence that like any other 9 months of the year, we don't hear anything about this. But right before you head out to Ali Pally, those two are going back and forth. And then, oh, by the way, Matchroom just happens to pick it up and promote it on their social media platform. When they tell you tickets are still available, click the link in the comments below, and so like I can't buy into the cheesiness part of it. That's where I get a little, come on, man.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. But I don't know how much it'll help when it comes to like the shit talking or the like animosity between them. And don't get me wrong, like of all 10 guys, those two guys in particular have a very like there that's probably like the one of the only rivalries that we would have in pool, right? Because I remember Hanoi years ago where where Federer, felt disrespected by Shaw, like genuinely disrespected by Shaw, and or maybe maybe it was Sonora, maybe it was a different major, but anyway, like if you bought into that and believed it, the Reyes Cup just completely, took that wave out of there, in my opinion anyway. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like how much can you really buy into that part of it, is what I would say. Now if you were coming from like a guy like Billy, right, who's like really animated and full of passion and all these things, then sure, okay, I can buy into the genuineness of that,
Yeah.
but like between them two, I don't know, Mike. I really don't know. So especially when it's followed up with the Matchroom post like conveniently thereafter. So, but what do you think about it, Mike?
I always think it's kind of amusing. It gets people fired up, and that's what it's there to do. And do they ever match up? Probably not. But this is this is Jason's time of year. This is the one time of year that he can get away with doing that, right? So, let him have at it. So,
I think like I would love to see more of it for sure, but then I would never want to see them on a team ever again, like ever again, because
well,
like,
when we first announced the Reyes Cup, one of the first things I told you I didn't like about it was these guys playing together.
Yep.
A couple of months, 8 weeks before they play against each other in Mosconi Cup, and you didn't think that was really an issue, but I think it is. Because the Mosconi Cup really, we talked about this too. It worked best when there was real animal. It was still a show, plenty of theatrics and all that stuff, but it wasn't a circus. I'd like to see them get back to that. I think it's the only way the U.S. has a chance if they get back to that. So, the idea of them being palsy and having boot camp or whatever before the Reyes Cup, that to me that's not what I want to see.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just the other part of it is Jason's the only one who's really good at doing it. Like out of everybody, he's the only one who's really like great at shit talking, where it's not as awkward as when others try to do it. But it's like this is the only time that he can really do it because he doesn't really perform in individual majors all year long. You know what I mean? So like when he's got Josh standing behind him, and guys that have, the other three guys have all won major tournaments in the last couple of months, that's whenever he starts getting all, you know what I mean? And
my bodyguard.
Yeah. When he's got Josh, he's sitting right behind him, a guy with, who's been one of the most ruthless killers in Mosconi Cup history.
I want to see some shit talk coming from Pius.
Listen, I had that guy on the show while you were gone, Mike. And let me tell you, there's not a lot of shit talking in his DNA. You know what I mean? Like there wasn't. I didn't feel that like I want to go and kill him.
I bet Moritz could shit talk if he was pushed.
Yeah, I could see that. Well, because he's I could see that for sure.
A little German edge to him.
Yeah. But like there's. Let's see, Woodward's out getting smacked that ultimate pool. Here's the other thing, Mike, is that, and I've been watching a lot of the ultimate pool stuff. And it's been fun. Like it's been cool seeing the bar table come back.
Yeah.
But like when I start seeing the Hatch and Rodney Morris and even Johnny for that matter, like you see guys that are still going out there and just giving it all they got. They're not just coasting through it. And I tell you what, Mike, call me crazy here, but I might be more interested in this Mosconi Cup if we had those guys back on the team than what we got right now. I mean, like, honest to God. Okay,
time. Okay.
All right.
We went through this before. Okay, now and we're talking the same guys you're talking about. We went through this 12 years ago. Okay, 2013, big anniversary Mosconi Cup. We're getting the band back together. It's a good idea. Let's get all these. The main U.S. players from back in those days, even though none of them are playing regularly anymore, we'll get them on the team. And it was Archer, and it was Hatch, and it was Earl, and it was Rodney, you know, and predictably, it was like 13-1. Okay, so I love Dennis Hatch, great player. I wish he'd have played full time for decades, but he doesn't. But I see him do well at Ultimate Pool. Everybody's saying he should be on Mosconi Cup. Stop it. Just stop it.
What is it? Listen, Kent, if we have another, and I know it was 11-6 last year, right? But a couple things. One, Josh wasn't there. Two, there was some garbage time points as well. Like it felt over after day two, you know? So, like, in other words, if it's already not competitive again, right? Because it's already real flat as it is. But if it's
You're
not
going to make it
competitive
more
again,
entertaining by bringing in a team of 50-year-olds?
I mean, we got to do something here.
Then what are you going to do next year?
Get their asses out of the retirement home again. I mean, fuck, I don't know. We got to do something, like I don't know, it's so hard, but it's just because like this culture that's developed here, Mike, and listen, there's been a lot. And I think number one, the competitive side, I think will be whatever it'll be, right? We talked about this, at end multiple times, right? Because that's just the way sports are. But like if there was just different guys to go and root for, or just have some kind of hope, or even just the uncertainty of it. Like I love sports, Mike, and one of the ones that I love, one of the stories I love is that the hockey one with the Americans and the Russians. Back in whatever it was, 88 or whatever, right? When there were a bunch of college kids who were just
1980.
80. Okay, with Sam, I was thinking a little further back, but it's like, listen, that's gone on to be one of the greatest sports stories in like American history. You know what I mean? I'm not saying pool's going to be equivalent to that, but like you at least have a chance if there's an unknown, But the problem is it's the same thing. It's literally the same thing. And you want us to buy into and spend money and go and fly across the world for the same thing, you know?
Well, then if I'm going to roll the dice, I'm going to roll it on younger people. If you want to have a seniors Mosconi Cup, do it. We can have Rodney and Dennis and Johnny, and they can play against Ralph and whoever. So that's fine too. But if you're gonna go really off the reservation, then to me, yeah, stick them younger kids out there. But they got to be younger kids then who are committed to doing the full year schedule each of the years, so that you're helping them actually build into being more experienced, good players, right? See him pull some young kid out of the blue, stick him in this year, and the kid doesn't play any of the matchroom events next year, then it was a waste of time.
Well, sure. And the breaks, listen, the break is everything. I don't care what discipline it is, the break is all of it, right? Whether you're playing 10 ball, whether you're playing 9 ball, whether you're playing bar table, 8 ball, it don't matter. Like the break is all of it and then some. And the fact that the American kids are not practicing 9 ball and 9 on the spot would be a big disadvantage to them. Like a huge, huge, huge disadvantage. Plus, I mean, Europe's just deep in general, but like just from the break alone, you know what I mean? And I do think that there's some like talented youngsters out there who I would love to see. Like I would love to see Savannah out there. Call me crazy. I'd love to see Hayden Ernst. I'd love to see Adrian Prasad out there. You know,
Yeah,
I
would
really
too.
would.
I would too. If those guys are going to get out there next year, then and go to all the events, because it's got to be. It's you're doing it to give them exposure, to give them experience, to see how they can handle that stage, and see if it helps them grow faster, right? Then it would mean then next year you got to commit to trying to make it on points. Okay, you got to commit to that.
That'll never happen, Mike. You know
Over
that.
the next couple of years, let's see over the next couple of years what your growth trajectory is. Whether you're getting better. Guys, you're just wasting my time sticking Hayden Ernst in here this year, and next year we don't see him at any events.
Well, they can't play into the open events anyway, some of those kids, because they are still kids. And Matchroom has like, I think a 16 and over.
16.
Yeah, 16.
Yeah.
16 and over policy.
Tell you what, you turn 16 in a day and have a social media following like JB Sukal, and then you get into Philippines Open.
You'll not only get in the Philippines Open, Emily will be begging you to be a WNT pro, right? You'll get a lot of selfies. She'll share all your posts, which, by the way, Mike, I wanted to bring this up because, listen, I love giving her a hard time, especially recently. But you see her, like, I follow her on social media, obviously, right? But she shared a lot of Mosconi Cup players' congratulatory posts, but there was a couple that I noticed didn't make the cut. I don't know why. Maybe she wasn't on Facebook that day or whatever, but I didn't see any SVB posts, and I certainly did not see any filler posts. And I don't know if that was just a coincidence, or if maybe she's not a big fan of Josh. I don't know what's going on there. So
Maybe it was more for people who aren't, automatic locks like a Shane or a filler.
You think so? Like
Sharon
Jason and Sky and all these other ones. It's a little, it's a little convenient. Howard says Ashley Ben Wallace playing better, but there's I think even if some of these kids that even we're mentioning, right, may still go out there and get slaughtered, but at least it'll be something new and fresh, and crazier things can go and happen in sports, but if it's these American pros,
I'm not flying to Ali Pally and paying all the money for tickets, whether I'm a European or American, to watch that team play.
Are a lot of fans going to fly from the U.S. to Ali Pally to go watch this American team play?
I don't know. Probably not. It doesn't sound like too many people are going anyways. But a few years ago, there was a good American group out there. But I mean, money's a little tighter. Things are a little more expensive these days. A little tighter. That could be affecting things. The economy could be affecting things. Period. So
sure.
Another thing to take into consideration. But if I'm a European fan and I hear U.S. is sending over, underolds who've never finished in the top 32 in a pro tournament, I'm not spending money on a ticket.
No. But I don't care how you go and slice it up, right? Because even if you're going and looking from online in terms of the gambling side of it, and I can remember, Mike, even when they were getting smoked, man, so many people wanted to go and fire on Team USA. Like there was a lot of American fans who always wanted to bet on Team USA. And like in any sports, if you can get the gambling side of it, and it's a little dicey in this day and age, seeing all these pitchers and NBA players and all this other stuff, right? But like if you can go and get gambling thrown into it, like especially if it'd be legitimate, but even on like the secondary market, right, which is always what pool has been, it's like it's tough action. Like there's not a lot of people with a lot of faith, at all. And so and I don't ever remember seeing this type of, like, I've never seen this turn from the fan base before. And me, I'm not an American homer, but even a lot of the diehards, even if they're still like supporting them online or whatever, like I want to see how many of those guys go and transition to buying a ticket and flying over there, because I think in years past they would have, and I think in years past a lot of these diehard fans did, but for whatever reason this year,
Joseph set up here, it just felt kind of thrown out this year, and there was no buildup. And the buildup is what people get excited, and that's why the 12-month buildup was so important, because people, you can't build everybody up now. It's like, 3 weeks from now. I'm pulling the trigger on that trip now. You got to get me excited in April, in May, when I look at going over and I look at making that my vacation, and I get tickets, and when I can get a decent airfare, and I book my hotel and all that stuff. You just can't like slough it off until November, and then all of a sudden expect a bunch of people to say, "Oh, that's right, I'm really excited about it today. Let's go over there in 3 weeks." It's not as you're expecting too much then.
Would you change like the qualification process in terms of like the cutoff date, Mike?
I would make the qualification process more apparent, and keep it going. Yeah, maybe end it a little bit earlier. You don't want to end it too early, because people, somebody could jump into form or be out of form by the time the event comes around.
Sure,
right?
That's fair.
I don't mind it going close, but I kind of liked it before when they a couple years ago. At first, I thought it was weird, but it wasn't actually that bad when you think about it. They had, the first pick was after this event. The second pick was after this event. So you had these locked-in people in these announcements early enough in the year to get you excited and to build up some news around, things like that. I didn't think, in retrospect, that doesn't look like a bad idea. To wait until November to announce the whole team, that's a bad idea.
I think I agree with you, but I also feel like the rankings got to go and shift a little bit as well, because you can't, they have to be tiered in a way where it's not world championship or bust, because it completely takes the wind out of the sails in terms of the year long race. Imagine if there was, imagine if you knew your hockey team or your baseball team or whatever was making the playoffs come, July. It's like you want to sweat the whole season. You want to be on the edge of your seat for every little game and have it go and mean something. But the way that the World Championship is set up,
it's obvious that the World Championship is so lopsided but still, that's, generally it's two spots, first and second. If they're both U.S. players, then it's kind of, then you got your two players already locked up for the top three. But early enough, who's going to be on the team. At least one player, is going to be on the team. I think they probably do need to do a little bit something with the points, because there is that real during the World Championship. U.S. Open, I think, with $100,000 first prize, that one's still okay in the scheme of things, but the World Championship is so lopsided that it kind of skews the points a lot.
Hey, listen, whoever lasts longer in the U.S. Open, you're getting an automatic spot, or you're getting a wild card spot if you don't make it in on points. Give me something to be on the edge of my seat about, Whereas this year, it's like Federer's just been coasting through, and rightfully so. I mean, he's the best player, but it's like, and even in terms of the Reyes Cup thing, it's like Carlos so far ahead. Where, don't get me wrong, I would still pick him on the team like next year and the fall and all the following years, but. If you really want to make it like a year-round thing and have it be suspenseful and exciting, then it has to go and shift just a little bit. You know what I mean? And let them go and have just a good old-fashioned horse race. You know what I mean? Hey, listen, whatever American goes further in the U.S. Open, we'll see you. We'll see you come December, and you may go and have some. And I guarantee you guys are going to really be grinding, and it's going to be really exciting when you're sweating those outside table matches, and especially if it gets down to the thick of it. But like this year, for example, Oscar was the last American standing. He's playing Josh. They don't, in final 16 or final 32, they don't even get on TV table, Yeah. And so it's just, things have to be kind of adjust a little bit. And the other thing, Mike, and I want to mention, because LJ mentions the international, this is the other thing. Listen, you can have the International Open with a lot of Europeans. I mean, the whole team, Mosconi Cup, is not going to be there. So like, how are you have to figure out a way, especially if the USA market is a priority, right? There's not a whole lot of events that are adding 50 plus thousand or even 40 plus thousand or whatever, right? Right. And so seeing those guys go and dip out before the international, and I get it. Listen, they are going to go train. They're going to get their rookies involved. Europeans are going to go practice on a 4-inch pocket, 9-foot table in Scotland. They're going to go and grind out and really cut their teeth. And the Americans are playing bar table 8 ball in North Carolina. You know what I mean? Like, that's where, how do you put that emphasis on these domestic events, Mike? And furthermore, go and have, like, you want to inspire promoters like what Pat's doing, right? And having it being a ranking event to say, hey, listen, we value in what you bring to the market and what you bring to the competitive landscape of the Americans. But you have to figure out a way to, like, push these players to go out there and support those events as well, Mike. Because not seeing those guys.
All the American players will be at the international, and they're going to kind of use that, and after that, I think they're staying together at the international. They're going to use that as part of their training thing. So, if they played this week on bar tables, I don't think it's going to ruin their chances to get their shit together at the International Open. Jason's option of dragging his team to Scotland, great. If I were a couple of those players, I'd be, I'd kind of rather be at the International Open, getting WPA points for next year and WNT points for next year, so that next year I like if Fran was in the Mosconi, he wasn't going to the International Open, I think twice about it because Fran got left out of a couple of WPA tournaments because he didn't have any WPA points this year. For the International Open, you win a decent prize, you're going to get that invitation next year. So, is it overkill to take his out of that playing good against a great field in Florida?
You're not going to say that if they go and win, you're not going to say it's overkill. But this is to where I feel like they're taking it more seriously as well.
USA, they're about a 3-1 favorite to win already. So, it's
okay. But here's the deal, though, Mike, is that even though they on paper, right, they're stealing, right, they're massive favorites, right. By them doing that just shows that they're still professionals, right? And they still got pride. They still want to go out there to compete. And knowing Jason, they don't want to go out there and just win. They want to win convincingly, and they're also not taking that team for granted, knowing they got Shane and Federer on it, despite their Mosconi Cup records, And
listen,
so
this was Jason's decision to do this. And they're all going along with it, and I give him credit for that.
Yeah.
But, listen, he doesn't want to be the guy who, dogged it with a team that's by 50, right? So I understand he's not nervous about losing, but he doesn't want to risk anything. He's not taking any chances. So he's getting his team over there.
You got to respect that though, Mike, right? I mean, you got to admire that a little bit, don't you?
Protecting his 80,000 is what he's doing.
Bingo. But it is smart, and I do love, and I do listen. Going and training on a RAS on there in Scotland with those 5 guys, and I'm sure there'll be other Europeans there, just out and about or whatever. But like, it does show how much they take it seriously. It's a big difference compared to going playing on standard diamonds out there in Florida, for the International Open, and you have to figure out a way to, and I think even Matchroom has to figure out a way to give them some type of way to kind of get gelled and have it be like a proper setup for them, because especially for the Americans, because the Americans have shown they need all the help they can get right now, so I'd much rather take what I'm paying those captains, right? And say, hey, listen, this is what we're going to go and provide for you guys to go out there and train at X, Y, and Z.
That was the whole Gucci treatment for on years 2 and 3, especially year 2 when they won in London. Matchroom basically funded them to get their.
Well, guess what? They need They need to get their shit together again.
Right, they do. So but it shouldn't be Matchroom's responsibility to get these guys to act like freaking professionals.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head right there.
Giving them a pretty good opportunity to start with. So man up, be professionals, get your shit together, and come over there prepared. However you want to do that, that's up to you. But
if they're well, look, I don't think that them having a sleepover at the International was the way to go and get dialed in. Is what I'll say. I think going more that Jason route makes a lot more sense to me. But those other guys will buy into the process, and I'm sure part of it's Jason kind of saving his own ass to some extent, and and at least giving it the respect it deserves, But it's just a different culture with the Europeans, and it's reflected. It's reflected in the scoreline, and if those guys individually,
when a European was running the American camp, that's when it turned, and he dragged them over and made them play in Russia. He made them play international tournaments over there, and he did this and he did that. But that was an expensive proposition too. So,
sure.
Which is, I'm sure part of what turned all that relationship sideways. So,
sure.
How do you? The U.S. needs to figure out a way to do that. And we've talked before about could, with a decent business plan, could the U.S. billiard industry fund that type of training camp, if you had the right captain who had a good battle plan and it needed to be funded, could the industry fund that and get a Team USA that shows up there every year ready to play? And would the players buy into it? Well, you take the ones who do. And if they don't want to buy into it, you don't take them. I don't care whether it's Federer, whether it's Jane, whether it's whoever. So, you got to change the culture of what you're doing. And like I said, maybe a plan that asks the industry to help fund that, would be worthwhile.
It would at least give you hope as a fan. Give you optimism as a fan. And that's about mine.
There's a lot of things that come with that, and that's when they were doing that in the Johan days, whatever, he was able to kind of handpick his team, so you could start this process in August. You didn't have to wait to find out who the hell's on the team at the end of October. So there's some logistics that go along with doing what we want to do.
Sure, no, I get that. And listen, my point is, in the overall, it is like, given the resources they have, the Europeans are just taking it more seriously, in my opinion. And so, and right, but like with that, Mike, if you're gonna get invited to that party, right, and whether you earned it or you didn't earn it or whatever, right, but like if you're given the opportunity and you're not handling it in a professional way or up to a certain standard, outside of just going out there and yelling for 2 or 3 days or like a day and a half, because that's the only time you're really into it, or in the fight, then it's like, hey, listen, I feel like your ass should also be on the chopping block as well, Mike. Because
I agree too. But who's going to make that call, and how does Matchroom do it? People have talked all the time about, okay, maybe they should just make it winner take all. You go over there and get your ass handed to you. You don't get any money.
If they make it winner take all, there's no Americans that are going to go and travel. Guarantee it. No Americans will go and travel.
No, I understand it, but I'm saying people are trying to have been, for years trying to find ways to incentivize U.S. players to take it like a real thing.
What do you realistically think? Like, and I'm not propositioning you for a bet here, but like, what do you realistically think the Americans get to from a point standpoint? Yeah, this year.
If they go in with the same approach and the same attitude they went into it last year, I'd say 6.
That's what I would say too. That's exactly what I was thinking. It's 6, and 6 does not make me want to go travel as a fan to go see it. 6 will, I'll turn it on. It'll be on the television. As a diehard, I'm going to watch it online. But 6 doesn't get me fired up, Mike.
Yeah.
Something has to give. Something has to shift. Now, whether it's adding in some new blood, like with Jesus or Thorsten, right, or seeing this new age of American kids go and become of age to go and travel more or whatever, and compete. I think that'll also put some heat on this like group of players, but something's gonna have to shift here if it gets worse. Because imagine if it's not even 6, Mike. Imagine if it very well could be. Yeah.
Imagine it looks like the Reyes Cup. 9-0 after.
That couldn't have gone any worse than what it did, Mike.
If you're an Asian fan, it went fine.
Well, sure, yeah, no, 100%. And you loved it, especially if you bet on Team Asia, which I did.
Which you may have done. You may have done.
Well, but like, listen, at the end of the day, I don't care if you win money or you lose money. You want to go as a sports fan. You just want to see it like be there at the end. You want it to be. You want to see that 2-minute drive.
I want to see a fight. I want to see a fight. I want to see a circus.
Yeah.
Last year everybody talked about how close the U.S. was to winning a couple matches that would have turned and made it more exciting. No, it was a circus. It was not fun to watch, really, to me. It was comical.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you. And it's going to be interesting to see how these next couple of weeks turn out. I think, like, given the fact the Europeans are not going to be at the international, it opens a door for the Americans to go deep, and you'd imagine that some will, but
Yeah.
imagine if they don't, then it's like, God damn, you're really going to be not having any hope. You know what I mean? Like, if some of these guys go and fizzle out, you're really
Not
going to
like
be like,
nobody's going to be at the international. I mean, Carlo's going to be at the international. Yap's going to be at the international. There's going to be it's going to be a good enough field where they don't have to where they're not stealing.
okay, what's the over under you think on Americans getting into the final 16?
Eight,
No,
final
final 8. Final 8.
final 8 in Florida at the international.
Yeah.
I'd say the over under is 3.
Got to be 2. Oh, I'm taking the under. We got to get a dinner on that one. I'm taking the under all day long. Yeah.
No, about Team America or a U.S. player?
Oh, now you want to go and just pepper that one in there, huh?
I just got clarification.
Okay, but like it says, Jesus gonna count?
I was waiting for you to answer first.
Hold on a minute. Wait a minute. I gotta watch where I'm stepping here a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Wait a minute. Hold on, cowboy, because I was about to fire here. Now all of a sudden I gotta watch where I'm stepping here. The rattlesnake is out. Man, with those guys, I think 2's a number. Like 2's a push. I feel like, but like, man, it better at least be 2. I'll tell you that, Mike, because if it's not, god damn, man, like you got to have some kind of hope going into it. And right now, it's just it's bare, and it sucks because, like, listen, I don't mind saying it like how I feel, right? But at the same time, it's like I want to see more fire and optimism and enthusiasm and all these things. And the way it is right now, it's like, man, it's just not happening, So, anyhow, Mike, you got anything else before we get out of here?
So you know what? I thought Arseni was going to play in. He is playing.
He is playing. Yeah.
Well, I was looking at they've got it alphabetically. I'm looking at the roster to see who's there from the U.S. and who's there from the rest of the world. You got Ralph Torsten, Kazakis, Mario He, Hoy, Capito. Yeah, 1.5 might be the
line. And that's without Team Europe there in the mix, Mike. Yep. This is what I mean. Like it's just
Victor, Dennis Grave. Yeah.
Is Max going to be there? Because Max is going to be a final 8 with that break. He'll be there in the final 8 for sure. Mario will be in the final 8. Kazakis probably so as well. It's like you're going to have these usual suspects, but there's going to be a lot more of pitfalls that are not going to be there. With Team Europe not being in the mix. So
I don't see Max there.
No.
Name ball entries. No, I don't see Max there. I don't see Alvin there. Passar. Yes.
Fran's going to be there. He should be there. He'll have a good chance to pick up some points.
Yeah. Lee Van, Carlo, Robbie Capito.
And I wonder how, like, if let's say Fran goes deep, right, which you would favor him, even though he didn't look as sharp as ever during the Reyes Cup, but you'd favor him to go pretty deep at the international. Like, I wonder how some of these guys who are not going to be automatics for Europe, like the Pius and the Moritz of the world, how they might feel in 8 months from now or 6 months from now.
That's why I said, if I was one of those guys, I would have been like, listen, I get it, but I would really like to play in this event because it's important to me. I would understand it. Yeah, a guy like a Pius or a Moritz, where they're not guaranteed. Like
even David. David,
David, yeah.
And here's the other thing, Mike, because I love watching the Bigfoot every year, right? Like that's one of the events for Derby and for the international that I look forward to all the time. And now I don't even know who's playing in the Bigfoot at the international. And a lot of those guys, Filler, Jason, both them would have been in Bigfoot. Maybe David, maybe, but you're missing out on some pretty marquee names that would have been in there, So
yeah, no, that was really disappointed when Jason pulled the team out of there. So.
well, you gotta respect his outlook in terms of wanting to get his guys prepared.
No,
So,
absolutely.
but anyhow, Mike, we need to get that list of Uncle Mike's major events, top 10 9-ball, so we can get our stats together. Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna reach out to Laley, try to get him scheduled on in the next few days as well. So I'd love to get his input on the Europeans and the way that things are kind of shifted over the last few years. And really, it seems like that that year in Vegas, Mike. Now that I think about it, was really the last time that I remember seeing like genuine fire. You know what I mean? Like shit talking. And I can remember Laley and Tyler were doing this number, even barking to go play a big, even barking to go play a big set. And I remember Laley was like, "I'll play you one pocket. I'm not playing your rotation." So, but like it seems like after that, it's just all the wins kind of got taken out of the sails a little bit, at least from a like fire spirit standpoint.
Yeah,
So,
right.
anyhow, Mike, always appreciated. I hear you got some news for Bears Digest coming up, so I'm excited to go and get your information on that here on an upcoming show. Right?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. All right. And then when does the international even start anyway?
This coming weekend.
So when are you flying out?
A week from today.
Okay. All right. Well, I also want to do like a Hall of Fame thing too. So, and kind of preview that. But anyhow, thanks everybody for hanging out with us. Call boys on the show. I said I love having Carl on. I don't know about getting anybody from Matchroom right now, given the way that it's been a little spicy lately. You know what I mean? So, but I always love having Carl on, and really out of the whole like roster there, as far as like pundits or whatever, like I really respect Carl because he calls it like he sees it. He's not afraid to kind of like tell it like it is. You know what I mean? And he doesn't. He'll say what he feels, no matter if they're Europeans or if they're Americans or whatever. He'll just kind of say it like how he feels. So that might actually be a good idea, MV. So anyhow, we'll see all you guys and gals later. We're going to get out of here, but thanks for hanging out with us.